So friends, look at this image. So this is first arc syndrome. In today's video, you will know the cause of the first arc syndrome. So please stay tuned till the end. Hello friends, so before knowing the cause of first arc syndrome, so you should know the normal things. So let's discuss about the development of pharyngeal apparatus. So as you know that this is the embryonic disc, this is the amniotic cavity, and this is the yolk sac. Now, so here no folding of embryo occurs, but now see that folding of embryo occurs, and see that after the complete folding of embryo, that this part of the yolk sac is completely lined within this embryo, and that part of yolk sac which is completely lined within the embryo after the folding of embryo has been done completely, and this is known as primitive gut, and the remaining portion of the yolk sac now called a definitive yolk sac. And also that there is a connection through which this primitive gut connected to definitive yolk sac, and that is known as phytointestinal tract. Now that this primitive gut is divided into three parts: foregut, midgut, and hindgut. So here that this midgut portion of foregut is connected to definitive yolk sac through phytointestinal tract, and the portion of a primitive gut cranial to the midgut is the foregut, and the caudal to the midgut is the hindgut. And all these portions I have written that here. So first of all, foregut, midgut, and hindgut together form primitive gut. Midgut connected to the definitive yolk sac through phytointestinal tract, and the part of primitive gut cranial to the midgut is called foregut, whereas the part caudal to the midgut is known as hindgut. So as you know that this is the midgut, this is the hindgut, this is the phytointestinal tract, and this is the foregut. Now I want to mention about the foregut. Now see that this is the foregut, and this is the cranial side, this is the caudal side. Now see that this is the cranial most part of the foregut. Now here that due to some changes, so here basically the bulging of the brain and many folding of embryo, that this cranial part of the foregut has been converted to a so here funnel shape. And you know that this foregut also has endoderm, mesoderm, and ectoderm. So see, I written that the cranial most part of the foregut becomes funnel in shape. So see that this is the condition, and this is the funnel shape. Yes, so here both these are, so here same the cranial portion of the foregut, basically most cranial part of the foregut, but only the section is different. It is looking from the coronal section, but it is not looked from the coronal section. So now see that so here so this is the mesoderm, so the part which is shown in the green color is the mesoderm. So now see that, so here compression and thickening occurs in the wall of mesoderm. As a result that this mesoderm, so here becomes a thickened like structure, and that a mesoderm which forms thickened like structure due to the compression and thickening in wall of mesoderm, and that structure is known as pharyngeal arch. So now see that as compared to the previous, that these pharyngeal arches have been formed in this developing embryo. So see that I have written that what is pharyngeal arch. So here see that due to the thickening of mesoderm and compression of mesoderm dorsoventrally, that in the wall of the cranial most part of the foregut a structure is formed, and that structure is known as pharyngeal arch. So now, and you also know and see that this pharyngeal arch has ectodermal covering, as well as endodermal covering. And you see that initially there are 6 pharyngeal arches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 pharyngeal arches. And also see that so this is the space between the 2 pharyngeal arches. So now see that, so here in this space there is a groove form. So there is a groove form due to the endodermal covering, and similarly then from this side also that is a groove structure formed due to ectodermal covering, and that a groove structure which is formed due to endodermal covering of the pharyngeal arch is the pharyngeal pouch, and similarly and that groove like structure which is formed due to the here ectodermal covering is known as pharyngeal cleft. So therefore I have written that the depression or groove produced in the adjacent area between the two pharyngeal arches, and that groove or depression which is produced due to extension of ectodermal covering of the pharyngeal arch, and that groove is known as pharyngeal cleft. And similarly about the pharyngeal pouch, the depression or groove produced in the adjacent area between the two pharyngeal arches, and that groove which or depression produced due to extension of endodermal covering of the pharyngeal arch, and that groove is known as pharyngeal pouch. So see in this diagram I have shown so here pharyngeal arch and pharyngeal pouch and pharyngeal cleft together. So this is the pharyngeal pouch, this is the pharyngeal cleft, and this is the pharyngeal arch, and initially there are 6 pharyngeal arches. Now that this pharyngeal pouch, pharyngeal arch and pharyngeal cleft they together constitute the here pharyngeal apparatus. So now how is pharyngeal arch formed? So just a little discussion. So here as you know that this is the neural tube, this is the ectoderm, this is the endoderm, and this is the notochord. And also you know that so here the intraembryonic mesoderm which lies in contact with the a notochord, and that is known as paraxial mesoderm, and the intraembryonic mesoderm which lies at the most lateral part is the here is known as lateral plate mesoderm, and both paraxial and lateral plate mesoderm so here they do the formation of pharyngeal arch. So therefore I have written that the paraxial and lateral plate mesoderm so here they develop into pharyngeal arch. So see that so you have pharyngeal arch, and also so this will develop into pharyngeal arch, and this is so here basically neural crest cells. Now here see that these neural crest cells they are also migrating in the paraxial and lateral plate mesoderms basically in the pharyngeal arch, and due to this migration of neural crest cells into pharyngeal arch like that so cartilage made. So first of all let's discuss about the first pharyngeal arch. So just like that in this first pharyngeal arch that these neural crest cells migrate, and with the migration of these neural crest cells so in the first pharyngeal arch Meckel's cartilage made. Now Meckel's cartilage and other skeletal components made, so therefore I have written that so due to the migration of the neural crest cells in the first pharyngeal arch the Meckel's cartilage form and skeletal muscle elements form. So that's all. So now I will discuss what are the derivatives of the first pharyngeal arch. The first one is the Meckel's cartilage, maxillary artery, and some following muscles: masseter, temporalis, mylohyoid muscles, and interbellum digastric muscles. And all these so here muscles you will have to study in the head and neck anatomy. So now let's discuss about the nerves of the arch. Now the importance of studying nerves of arch is that all these nerves so here they supply so here sensory and motor signal to the cartilage and the muscles derived from the respective pharyngeal arch. So therefore I have to study that. So you can see that so this is a pharyngeal arch, this is a pharyngeal arch. So now that is blue colored portion which I have marked is the cranial border, that is blue colored portion, and the pink colored portion which I have marked is the caudal border. So now see that so this is a nerve, and this nerve you can see that is running through the cranial border of this pharyngeal arch, and this nerve is running through the caudal border of this pharyngeal arch, and that nerve which runs through the cranial border of the pharyngeal arch is known as postraumatic nerve, and that nerve which runs through the caudal border of the pharyngeal arch is known as pretraumatic nerve. Now here again you see that this postraumatic nerve so here supplies the so here respective pharyngeal arch only, whereas this pretraumatic nerve, so here supplies the respective pharyngeal arch as well as the succeeding or the next pharyngeal arch. So therefore that I written that posttraumatic nerve, the nerve that runs along the cranial border of the pharyngeal arch, and this nerve supplies only the pharyngeal arch, the skeletal elements and cartilage derived from that pharyngeal arch, and that nerve is known as posttraumatic nerve. Now pretraumatic nerve, again the nerve that runs along the caudal border of the pharyngeal arch, and that nerve supplies the respective pharyngeal arch as well as the next or succeeding arch, skeletal elements and cartilage, and that nerve is known as pretraumatic nerve. So that's all. So now I want to discuss here about the case, basically first arch syndrome. So here now, before understanding the first arch syndrome, that you should know that what is normal. So as you know that Meckel's cartilage formation, why? Again I am going to tell you that this Meckel's cartilage formed due to migration of these neural crest cells in the first pharyngeal arch. So therefore that I have written that Meckel's cartilage developed due to migration of neural crest cells in the first pharyngeal arch, and from this Meckel's cartilage, mandible and zygomatic bone formed. So this is a normal situation. But in case of first arch syndrome, what happens is that this migration of neural crest cells in the first pharyngeal arch is not done, or it is not done clearly, so therefore failure. As a result, that is Meckel's cartilage is not developed, and as a result, so here mandible and zygomatic bones, they are not developed clearly, so therefore they are underdeveloped. So once again see the image. So if you can see, so you can notice that this mandible has not been developed, it is underdeveloped, and due to this basically first arch syndrome occurs. That's it. Thank you.